Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the hidden psychology behind people who simply refuse to give up. We're looking at cognitive mirrors research to figure out why true, unstoppable resilience actually has very little to do with sheer willpower, and, well, pretty much everything to do with cognitive reframing. If you've ever felt like throwing in the towel, or if you're just curious about peak human resilience, you are in exactly the right place. So think about this for a second. Why exactly do some people keep going while others just quit? I mean, we all face failure, right? We all face rejection and pain. But why does one person absolutely shatter after a single setback while another person seems practically unbreakable? What's the secret sauce? It's a question that's puzzled researchers, coaches, and honestly, probably you at some point in your own life. When we try to answer that, we usually default to a few pretty standard excuses. We say, oh, they just got lucky, or they have this raw talent that I just don't have, or my personal favorite, they just have endless motivation. But the data tells a completely different story. The real engine of persistence isn't luck, it's not talent, and it is absolutely not motivation, which, let's be real, is fleeting at best. The true driver here? It's psychology. It's something much deeper, rooted right in how your brain processes adversity. And the best part? It's something you can actually control. Section 1. The myth of natural talent and reframing failure. Most people walk around believing that mentally strong individuals are just born with some special resilience gene, but psychology says otherwise. Mentally strong people aren't born different, they just use a completely different cognitive framework. The core difference isn't that they magically avoid failure. Actually, scratch that. Because of the sheer volume of their attempts, they probably fail way more often than anyone else. The difference lies entirely in how their neuroplasticity adapts to process and react to that failure when it inevitably happens. There is such a stark contrast between these two mentalities. On one hand, you've got the quitter mindset. When failure hits, they immediately ask, why is this happening to me? They view failure as this absolute proof that they just aren't good enough. To them, it's a dead end. But then, look at the resilient mindset. They use rapid cognitive reframing. Instead of wallowing, they ask, okay, what is this teaching me? They see failure purely as feedback. Every single mistake, just new data. Every setback, just training. And that simple mindset shift changes literally everything. Suddenly, the pain isn't the end of the story, it's the exact fuel they need for growth. Section 2. The power of mental resilience. It's a really fascinating psychological phenomenon. The people who never quit, they are rarely the smartest people in the room, and they are almost never the most naturally talented. Success, more often than not, simply goes to the person who just stays in the game longer. Think about high attrition environments like elite military training or those grueling startup incubators. Raw intellect and natural gifts are great, sure, but they constantly lose out to the simple, profound act of just refusing to leave the table. So what actually is mental resilience anyway? Let's clear something up right now. It is not some magical superpower where you just feel incredibly confident all the time. No way. That is a massive misconception. Mental resilience is simply the ability to act despite fear, doubt, and uncertainty. Unstoppable people do not wait to feel ready. They don't sit around waiting for the fear to magically disappear, because chemically speaking, it rarely does. Instead, they make an active, deliberate choice to push forward, even when their confidence is literally sitting at absolute zero. Resilient people understand an incredibly powerful truth about emotional weight. They actively weigh the temporary pain of trying against the lifelong regret of wondering, what if? Think about it. The discomfort, the embarrassment, the sheer physical or mental exhaustion of trying, well, that lasts a moment. But the pain of looking back in 20 years and wondering what could have happened if you just kept going, that can last forever. Resilient people tolerate that immediate discomfort because they are absolutely terrified of permanent regret. Section 3. Why consistency always beats talent. Now, there is one hidden habit that almost every truly unstoppable person shares. They aggressively protect their mindset. And I mean aggressively. This isn't some passive thing. It's a very active daily practice. When inevitable obstacles pop up and life gets incredibly hard, they basically build a fortress around their mental state. They actively manage their internal locus of control, and they absolutely refuse to let negativity or defeatism take root in their brain. So how do they actually do that? Well, most people default to an obstacle focus. When they hit a wall, they just throw their hands up and say, "This is impossible." Boom, the journey ends right there. But people who never give up, they immediately pivot to a solution focus. Their internal dialogue instantly shifts to, okay, there must be another way. They completely refuse to accept the dead end. They force their brain to start looking for the detour or the tunnel or the ladder right over that wall. This all builds into a really clear step-by-step process. Step 1, protect your mindset when the blow lands. Don't spiral. Step 2, focus on solutions. Force your brain to ask, right, what's the next best move? And step 3, move forward consistently, just little by little, inch by inch. And hey, notice what's totally missing from this equation: speed and perfection. Because speed and perfection simply do not matter here. It's entirely about that consistent forward motion. Which leads us to this absolute core realization: consistency is greater than talent, always. Taking imperfect, small steps, day after day, regardless of how you feel, is vastly more powerful than relying on some raw, natural talent. Talent will give up when things get boring or a little too difficult. Consistency? Consistency is what ultimately builds empires, finishes marathons, and completely changes lives. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from our source material to wrap up today's explainer. The strongest people are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who refuse to stay down. The true difference between success and failure so often comes down to that one simple, stubborn choice. So the next time life knocks you down and you're staring up at the ceiling, wondering if you should just quit, ask yourself, are you willing to live with the lifelong regret of staying down, or are you going to take that one imperfect step forward? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep pushing forward.